Once known as the cheapest airline in Europe, Ryanair has conquered the European aviation market. But the industry is beginning to change.
I love cream cake.
Can Ryanair keep up? How is the airline adapting? And what does this mean for the passengers? My mission is to find out exactly that. Traveling from Dublin, the heart of Ryanair, I take a closer look at the so-called ultra low-cost carrier on a 3-hour flight across the European continent down to Rome. From forgotten passengers, cut fingers, interesting cost-saving measures, and a unique pricing structure, I leave no stone unturned. A particularity of Ryanair is already noticeable on departure in Dublin. Unlike many full-service carriers, Ryanair does not depart from the modern T2, but from the low-cost Terminal 1. This terminal is older and seems rather overcrowded, but at least the toilets are clean. The walking distances to the gate are relatively long at T1. In addition, for cost reasons, Ryanair usually parks its planes at a remote gate rather than at the jet bridges. When boarding, the strict baggage guidelines are rigorously checked, and passengers who exceed their limits are asked to pay a hefty fee. After having our boarding passes scanned, the other passengers and me are sent down a staircase and are left standing on the tarmac for almost 25 minutes in sub-zero temperatures. Having brought no winter jacket, I get quite cold, and it really starts to piss me off that just nothing is happening. But finally, some staff approaches us, the doors of our Boeing 737s are opened, and we are ready to board. My seat is 29F, and hence I board through the rear door, where I am greeted by a lovely flight attendant who hands me a hot towel. No, obviously there is nobody at the door. But if you need stuff like hot towels, then I kindly ask you to bugger off from my channel and to watch the videos of Sam Chui or that vegetarian dude instead. Although I also like to test the luxury experience from time to time, my budget rather screams Ryanair, Vietnamese fake airline, third class on a ghetto train or Myanmar Airlines. So if you're interested in some alternative experiences in the air and sometimes on the rails, feel free to leave a sub. Otherwise, if you can't be bothered by that, my channel is the wrong place for you, my little friend. Ryanair is often portrayed as the worst airline in Europe. And while that might be true for some aspects, I think this actually isn't the case with the crew. In my experience, the cabin crew of Ryanair isn't too bad at all. Okay, the missing flight attendant at the door was kind of a safety breach, I guess, but otherwise I have never had any bad experience with them. I can't say the same for the ground staff and for the Ryanair customer service, but their flight crew, I think they are doing an impressive job. Most of them are very young, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Their job can be very stressful, as the customer segment that flies Ryanair is not always easy to deal with. So I actually do respect them a lot, since I doubt that I would be able to do their job at the same conditions. But enough with the sugarcoating. Ryanair, if you want me to talk better of you, please contact me. As a real Swiss, I do take bribes. Real life journey here. Just to let you know, that's a joke. I do that sometimes. Joking. Let's have some real talk, but first we need to take off. There is quite some traffic on the ground and in the air. Among them being a brand new 737 MAX that has just arrived from the Boeing plant in Everett in the US. After about 20 minutes and a delay of about an hour, we finally take to the skies. Due to the notoriously great Irish weather, the takeoff is quite turbulent. But after we break through the clouds, the seatbelt signs go off and I head back a row behind me, where I have 3 seats for myself. Not only does this give me the opportunity to stretch out, but also to take a closer look at the seat. Due to their single-type fleet, the seats of all Ryanair planes look the same. They are mostly made from plastic and are designed to be as cost-efficient as possible. This means that there is barely any padding and that the seats can't be reclined. As there is not even a seat pocket with an in-flight magazine on Ryanair's aircraft, there is not much you can do entertainment-wise on a 3-hour flight. There is no Wi-Fi, but I did download some stuff on Netflix, which I am watching as we are flying down south to Italy. If you are into Netflix and chill, there is also the option to join the Mile High Club in one of the 2 lavatories located on this plane. I visit the one in the rear, which is tiny but not dirty. A standard airplane toilet, toilet paper, paper towels, running water and a hand soap is provided like on every other economy class airline. Back at my seat, I caught my finger on this broken plastic latch under my armrest. Surprisingly, no surgery was necessary for this deep and life-threatening injury. However, it can go differently. One example of this is a lady who was awarded damages in autumn 2023 after she fell down the stairs while disembarking a Ryanair plane. The Spanish court ruled the airline responsible and unable to prove negligence. But why did she fall down? Well, to save costs, Ryanair often does not use the stairs at the airport, but rather built-in stairs, which are very narrow and steep. This example illustrates how Ryanair uses every opportunity to save money. Another example is the purchase of 100 Boeing 737s after 9/11, when the prices for aircrafts were favorable. The massive increase in its 737 MAX order after demand collapsed due to the 2 crashes and the resulting findings about the 737 MAX goes in the same direction. They are not stopping at the crew either. For example, in order to be able to lay off pilots directly and not to have to pay social security contributions, Ryanair hires many pilots not as employees but as freelancers. According to insiders, Ryanair also keeps rankings of which pilots use the least fuel. As a result, an emergency has already had to be declared on several Ryanair flights due to fuel shortages. To be fair, however, it has to be said that Ryanair, despite being one of the largest airlines in the world, has never had a fatal crash. In addition, the safety regulations in European aviation are very high, and Ryanair, like all airlines operating here, must adhere to these rules. So, to generalize and classify Ryanair as unsafe would be wrong in my opinion. Plenty of folks claim that Ryanair is terrible. But you should remember that you get what you pay for. Nowhere is this more the case than with Ryanair. Only a minimum is included in the basic fare. However, if you want more baggage, catering, faster boarding and so on, you can buy these for a fee. Safety, respectful treatment, and a smooth transport to the chosen destination, however, should be included even without add-ons. But the popularity speaks in favor of the airline. With 51 million seats, Ryanair is now the largest airline in Europe and continues to grow rapidly. However, there is one airline that is slowly becoming a threat to Ryanair: WIZZ AIR. Click here to find out the truth behind the pink anti-Ryanair. Thank you so much for watching and see you next week.